welcome to our Betfred Sports Talk here in the Quest Media Network studio. I'm Kate Caffrey, joined by the lovely Peter Spencer. How are you doing today, Peter?
Yeah, great, thanks very much.
Brilliant. So on Wednesday night, City drew Leipzig, which was quite an unfortunate game for City, but what do you think of that game there, Peter?
Yeah, it was same again with City. They just don't seem to be able to get the ball in the back of the net. Haaland, if his supply line was non-existent basically, probably because of De Bruyne not travelling to the game. So that meant that City were struggling to play the new system for this year, which is get the ball to Haaland and he'll score. I mean, I've got to say, I've scored a lot already this season. You can't put it all on him. But it was 1-1. City dominated the first half. Leipzig readjusted the tactics and came out all guns blazing in the second half. And it was 1-1 was a kind of a fair result. City remain the favourites for the Champions League with Betfred. The 15-8 to go and win the Champions League for the first time in the history. Bayern Munich 7-2. Real Madrid, who put paid to Liverpool's aspirations, they are 6-1. We've got Chelsea at 20-1 and Betfred have Spurs at 25-1 to win the Champions League. So it's all gearing up nicely for that now. And City will be very, very confident that they can get the job done against the Germans in the second leg.
When we heard about Kevin De Bruyne not playing here in the office, we were quite shocked that he wasn't going to travel down because, you know, he's a great asset to the team and, of course, it's made a difference not being there, hasn't it?
Yeah, it was supposed to be ill, that's the reason. Although he has had some slight criticism from the manager this season. But he does show some strange mood swings, Pep Guardiola, and he's been saying, he'll be mocked if they don't win the Champions League this year and this kind of comments. But the fact is that City are going great. I mean, they're still favourites for the Premier League. Betfred have them 10-11 ahead of the game against Bournemouth. Arsenal 11-10. Manchester United 12-1. So they're coming in quite sharply there. And Newcastle 250-1. They played Newcastle in the Carabao Cup final at Wembley on Sunday, of course. Liverpool, Spurs, Brighton 500-1. So we reckon it's obviously going to be between City and Arsenal for the title. But United are really chasing them hard now.
And of course, they beat Barcelona last night in an incredible game. What did you think of that game, Peter?
Yeah, it was. It was excellent. It was the other way around, really. It was Barcelona who had the first half and United the second half. Again, he adjusted his tactics up front. And it paid dividends because it was the super sub Anthony who scored one goal, the winner. Fred got back on this, equalised quickly after the interval, which was a good time. United are 5-2 favourites with Betfred to win the Europa League outright. Arsenal 7-2, Juventus 15-2, and Roma 12-1.
And I think Ten Hag has been compared to Ferguson recently, which I think maybe a bit too soon to compare him to. But he's been doing some good things recently. Do you think it's a bit too soon to compare him to the likes of Ferguson and that amazing kind of manager role there?
Well, they've had quite a few managerial changes at United since Sir Alex Ferguson left. And I think he's the most likely now to pick up that mantle and carry on the great traditions of United feasting at the top table. Betfred have United 200-1 for the quad,
wow,
which is pretty extraordinary, really. That'll be the Europa League, Carabao Cup, Premier League, and FA Cup. So,
wow,
if they come through on all those 4 trophies, I think the Premier League's the hardest at 12-1. But if they come through on the whole lot and get the quad, well, there'll be massive comparisons then between Sir Alex Ferguson and Ten Hag, although when United got the treble, of course, it did include the Champions League in 1999.
It's been a pretty amazing year for United after having, a few years of such hardship and everyone was criticising them massively. It's been great to see them actually perform this season, hasn't it?
Yeah, they've gone back to the old traditional counter-attacking play, and they're doing all this without Eriksen, of course, and he's an excellent player. And they've come good. It's great to see. The Premier League wants and sort of will football wants a successful Manchester United.
And for the Premier League, what we're looking like for odds for the Premier League? Who might win, and what's it looking like there, Peter?
Well, we have got Bournemouth against City on Saturday, and City are 2-7 favourites in that game. Haaland is 13-8 to go and put this so-called goal drought to bed. He's 13-8 with Betfred to score the first goal. Foden, well, he's still out of it a little bit, but he's 9-2 to score the first goal. I think he'll get a comeback call in that game. Mahrez, he's 5-1, and Grealish, he's 7-2. So they're all looking quite in good spirit, at least, and on the back of the 1-1 draw. And I see only a City victory at relegation threatened Bournemouth.
A very exciting game. United play Newcastle at Wembley this weekend. It'll be a really exciting game to watch. What do you think of that game there, Peter?
Well, all the talk is whether Rashford will overcome that injury. I think he will. The reason I base that on it looked like a precautionary withdrawal on the 88th minute. And also, in the Derby game, he picked up a knock just before the break and came out and scored in the second half. So I do think his power of recovery are excellent. So we have Rashford as the favourite at Betfred to open the scoring. He's 3-1. Callum Wilson from Newcastle is 9-2. Then we've got Anthony 13-2 and Fernandes 9-1. We think that United will win the Carabao Cup. The 4-7 to go and do that. Newcastle 11-8.
And some Super League news, the season has, kicked off. It's been going really well so far. Who might win Super League there? I mean, Saints are probably going to be still favourites to win. What do you think there, Peter?
Well, I think Warrington's victory against Leeds has made people think a little bit about whether that's where the challenge to Saints' dominance will come. Now, St Helens had this huge triumph for rugby league as a whole in Australia when they beat Penrith Panthers in the World Club Challenge. Now that is a great shot in the arm for rugby league in this country, and Saints in particular. Saints going for 5 Betfred Super League grand finals on the run. Now they're at Castleford on Sunday. Now we've still got Saints as favourites for that game, but a lot will be determined on what sort of a team they put out, because you've got to accept that Saints will have been celebrating somewhat, having become world champions, and they've had a 50-hour journey back from Australia to put up with earlier this week, so that will have happened already. And the manager there will be looking to see which players will be able to do the business and fit enough to do the business against Castleford. And Castleford will be looking to put them on the backside big time and bring them right back down to earth. So we've got some great matches. We've got Huddersfield, they're entertaining Warrington. Warrington have now been cut to 11-2 at Betfred to beat Saints to the title and be champions. Wigan had a fortunate loss at home, away last weekend, and now they're at home against Wakefield tonight. And Catalans, they're playing Lee. Lee drifting out to 50-1 now, having been beaten by Salford on the opening day. Catalans are always there or thereabouts. They're 9-1 to win the grand final.
Some great games there. It is worth watching, isn't it? I mean, I've only recently got into the league, but it is so worth watching. It's actual great games, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's they're trying to attract more women and families into the sport. It's women apparently like all the muscles on the blokes, and they did put a spectacle on. And what amazes me, and it always has done about rugby league, is they absolutely smash into each other. You can actually feel and hear the thuds when you're at the side of the pitch. And then afterwards, they're all shaking hands and hugging each other as if it's not really happened.
And speaking of spectacles, we have another kind of sporting story to bring you. As YouTuber boxers are fighting, aren't they? I believe Jake Paul is fighting Tommy Fury in a quite crazy match this weekend. Yeah,
it's been billed as the biggest grudge match of all time. They've been at each other, exchanging not pleasantries over the last few days. And as you say, they've got the YouTube star Jake Paul taking on Tommy Fury, more famous in many people's eyes for his his performance in Love Island. Anyway, Betfred have Jake Paul the favourite, 8-13, Tommy Fury 11-8. It's going to be over 8 rounds, and it's in Saudi Arabia on Sunday. And I've got to say that this has really taken off in betting terms. More people are onto this than any that Tyson Fury's ever fought in.
Wow.
It has really captured the public imagination. We've got all sorts of bets on, thousands of pounds have gone on this, individual bets. We've got lots and lots of 200 and 500 bets on round betting and when there'll be a knockout, etc. But Tommy Fury is looking like the outsider in that at this stage.
So I'm young enough to remember when YouTube boxing started, and it began a few years ago when Joe Weller fought KSI. You may have heard of him, still have them prime drinks that have gone really well. And it's mad to think that that has grown into what it is now, but do you think that kind of dampens the sport of boxing? Is that ruining the sport of boxing, that these people can just kind of come from nowhere and fight?
Well, we'll find out on Sunday, won't we, whether he can actually put his gloves where his mouth is and actually beat Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury has had 8 fights so far. He hasn't really been challenged that much, but he is a proper professional boxer, whereas Jake Paul isn't. And it'd be fascinating to see whether Tommy Fury, who's like old school boxing, loads of battles in the gym, etc., goes against the more glamorous Jake Paul. It will be a fascinating battle, that. But I frankly see Tommy Fury putting the upstart on his backside. That's what I'd say. But it will be great, and it does show how the world of sport is changing. That somebody can come through from YouTube, where all the kids know him off by heart. I mean, you get stopped now by younger people who only know Jake Paul from YouTube, not as a boxer, and Tommy Fury they know him from Love Island. They don't know them from the actual sport that they're fighting for on Sunday. It's
mad thinking that the media can have so much of an effect in sport, isn't it, now? It is quite crazy.
It is.
Well, amazing. There's lots to watch there and catch up on all the weekends. Thank you very much, Peter. If you do fancy a bet, you can bet online in Betfred stores and via the app as well.